it always pops up with this some various ads in the beginning, and I highly recommend that you take advantage of that because these tutorials are just fantastic. I'm going to click on this button that says Illustrate, and you can do that too. What's cool is that it remembers what you last did, so I don't have to change my settings now. My 11 by 8.5 inches artboard is already there. The resolution is there. The color is there. It remembers everything that we did the last time we set up an artboard. So all I got to do is hit OK. But if you are doing this for the first time, those are the settings we need. Again, 11 by 8.5 inches. You need to change the units, and then the resolution is 250 dpi, and the color I changed from translucent to white. Hit OK, and you are ready to go. Guys, please do interrupt me at any time if you have a question. I'm going to start off today with a little review. So over on the left hand side of the standard screen, the very first tool is the brush tool right there. And if you go to the bottom, you'll see there is a brush menu. And once you have chosen the brush tool, this brush menu is active and you can pick the particular brush you want. I'm on a pen right now that's fairly narrow, and if I draw with it, it looks like that. The menu immediately above that is the control menu for whatever brush type you're using. And this one only has two controls. So the first one here is the size. So as I move the slider up, the pen gets much larger. And beneath it, the slider is the opacity. So I can turn that way down and it becomes translucent. So only when it's at 100% is it truly opaque, which would mean that nothing will show through. Above that is the palette, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then at the top is what I have it set up as the color bar. And I like this rectangular arrangement. The default is the color wheel, and it's your choice. I like the color bar because it's a little bigger. Both of them work in that you first select the general hue you want, and then in the square here, you would pick the exact shade, either a lighter or darker or more intense. If you would rather use the color bar, which I'm going to click on the color pull-down menu from the top and simply click on color bar. Now, once you have your color chosen, you should add it to your palette so that you don't lose it, because it's hard to get back to the exact shade that you were using. So if I'm going to use a green for a particular assignment, once you've decided that's the color I want to use, you can come down here to your personal palette and click Add Color. And then it throws up this menu here, and it's just wanting you to confirm that you want that. You can even name it if you want to call it something special. So I'm going to hit OK, and now you can see I've added that green to my color palette. I think I'm going to go with another orangey color as well. Maybe a little more orange, something like this. And add that one as well. So now I have these 5 colors in my palette, and I can click on any one of them, and that's what I will start drawing with. So whatever one I click on, and I of course can go back to them. I can just at any time say that's the one I want to use, and then return to it. So that is a big advantage of saving your colors in this color palette. All right, so that was pretty much review from what we did last week. I'm going to select everything and delete it here. Control A for select all, and then delete, and then Control D to deselect. And if you're wondering what those keystrokes are, under the select pull-down menu, they're right there. So Control A grabs everything, and Control D unselects everything. The next thing I want to talk about is this menu over here on the right, this layer menu. Layers are so big. They really make drawing easier. I highly recommend you guys get into the habit of drawing every new item on its own layer. And let me show you an example of why that would be useful. So I'm going to go to the shape tool here, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle and another rectangle. Those two rectangles are on the same layer, and you can see over here on the right it says layer 1, and there they are in that little graphic representation of it. You can see both of them. And if I go to move, grab the move tool here, which is the 5th one down, I can move them, but they both move together. They're stuck together. They will never be separated. However, if I had done them on different layers, so I'm going to delete those guys. And by the way, you can delete a layer. So if you make a new layer, which I'm doing right now, clicking add layer, it's the very first button there, I can click on the layer that they're on and hit the trash can there and just delete them that way. So on this first layer, I'm going to draw the 1. I'm going to go to my rectangle command, just like before. There we go. But now I'm going to click on the second layer that I made by choosing this button here, and you can make as many layers as you want by clicking that button, and you can just delete them as easy. So now I'm going to make those same 2 rectangles, but they're each on different layers. So now when I go to move tool, I pick the layer that contains the object I want, and now I can move it anywhere I want. Anywhere I want. And I can do more than move it. I can actually change it. I can transform it very easily. And so here is the next really useful tool I want to talk about, and that's transformation. So the keystroke for transformation is Control T, and it is under the select menu down right over here in the middle at the bottom of it. Control T, and this one you're going to use all the time. The big thing with Control T, and I'll type it right now, is that it allows you to resize things very easily. So I can bring this together or spread it apart. It also allows you to rotate. If you go toward the corners, it allows you to rotate. And we'll talk more about what you can do with transform, but it is extremely useful. And you can see there's a bar down at the bottom of the screen that allows you to do various things. You can even flip the object, click on free transform, and look at that. You can just go nuts with it if you check that free transform box. So transformations are really cool. Again, if those 2 things had been on the same layer, I would not have been able to transform the red rectangle by itself. I could have done a transformation, but it would have transformed both of them at the same time, not independent of one another. I can also change the opacity of this second layer by simply going to the opacity bar, which is right above, right here. I can drop that down, And now you see that object's opacity is thin enough that you can see through it. Another amazing benefit of layers is that I can switch the layers. So right now that red rectangle shape is on top, but I can click on either layer and just drag them down or drag them up and switch their order so that the one is on top of the other. Another thing I can do is add anything behind them. So I can click on a new layer here and drag it down to the bottom. And now I'm going to take my black paint and create a black background by just making a big rectangle the whole size of this thing. And now you can see that the two shapes are on this black background, and there it is. Another fun thing you can do with layers is toggle their visibility. So this little button to the left of the graphic here for the layer graphic, you can just click on that and it turns it off. It's not that it's not there, it just turns off its visibility. And printability as well. So that is layers in a nutshell. If there are no questions about layers, I'm going to move on here and talk about the next tools I want to talk about here, and that is the snaps. So there are some fantastic snaps available to you. I'm going to go back to my brush tool and pick this pink color and demonstrate these various drawing snaps that will help you draw some great lines. So with the brush tool by itself, it just is freewheeling like that. Control Z. But if you go over to the snaps, which are on this status bar up top here, you can see there is no snap on it, but I'm going to just go down the snaps here with you. So the first one is parallel snap, and you can see it throws up some lines and it makes these lines parallel, in parallel. If they're not going at the right angle, you can change it. So the settings snap is right here. And if you click on that, you can then use your cursor to rotate the lines, and I'll just click that way. And now I have that. So you can arrange the lines to do any angle you want by clicking on that settings snap button and then rotating, and there you go. Okay, so that is parallel lines. Next, the next one here is crisscross snap, and that's basically moving in the X and Y direction. So that's all it will let you do with crisscross. So if you're doing things that are rectangular, making a maze, it would be perfect for that. That's crisscross. The vanishing point one is really not so useful. It's almost identical to this one right here, this radial snap. So I'm just going to show you that. And the radial snap is a little easier to use. So I'm going to click on radial snap. And you can see it defaults to this upper left-hand corner. But you can move that, again, by just going to the snap setting. And then you can drag it to wherever you want. And now I am radiating from this center. So that's a lot of fun. That's the radial snap. And again, if you hit the settings button, you can move it to anywhere you want. All right, delete that layer. Next to the radial snap is the circle snap, which is probably pretty obvious to you. Of interest is the fact that it doesn't have to make a whole circle. You can just draw partial circles, which are called arcs. So you can choose to only do a little bit of it, or you can go all the way around, but just start and then stop. And again, if you go to the snap setting, you can then relocate that circle. So if you were going to draw some eyes, for example, you might just do the one and then hit the snap setting and then move it over a little bit and do another one, right? So very simple. I like how you can do these partial arcs from it. It's it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And again, you relocate the center points by just hitting the snap setting right there. Okay, so those are pretty obvious. The ones that I've gone over so far are pretty obvious how to use. The last two here are a little more tricky. I'm going to go with this one, the curved line ellipse. Click on that guy and show you how this works. So you just click and drag, and it creates like a sort of a cookie cutter. And once you've released from it, you can now draw on that cookie cutter, and you can relocate it, and you can keep drawing on it. You can move it around, use it as many times as you want, or you can use portions of it. Again, like the other one, you don't have to draw the entire shape. You can also change it at any time. You can grab its little grips here and make it bigger, or stretch it out differently. Totally change it. You can even rotate it if you want. You can come over here to the corner and say, I want it to be kind of like that, and create some fun effect here, maybe changing the colors each time. And something like that. So you can trace over it. So that's a pretty neat tool right there. It allows you to create ellipses and arcs very easily. The last tool I'm going to show you, the last one to go over, is this guy right here, this curve snap. The way that one works is you click a start point, and then the next point you click, it creates a line that goes through those 2 points, but it is adjustable depending on where you click the third point. So you can create some very organic curved shapes, and these are the kind of shapes that were in the example artwork that I gave you guys to do today. And when you're done, you double click. You just double click the last spot. So please remember that. You double click to finish drawing. And now, similar to the ellipse or the curved line snap, you have the ability to move it around, to resize it, to rotate it, all those things that you did with the curve snap. But you have one other ability, and that is to move these anchors. So if you hold the control key and definitely take note of that. If you hold the control key on your keyboard, you can grab these anchors and move them. So you can say, you know what? That's not quite the shape I was after, which is nice because it gives you a lot of flexibility. You don't have to get it right the first time. So that's working out pretty nice for me. I like the way that shape turned out. And now I can do what we did before. I can trace over it. Pretty cool like that. Another thing you can do, rather than tracing over it, is to go up here to the snap menu and simply say draw curve. And what it does is it traces over it for you using whatever pen tool you have selected, brush tool you have selected, and whatever color you have selected. And I could just move it a little bit and change the color and do the same thing. Snap, draw curve. Move it, change my color, snap, draw curve. I could resize it, I can rotate it, put it over here, put it coming off, and again, snap, draw curve. So that's pretty cool. Another thing you can do is save it. Like if you really like this shape, and I do, I like this shape a lot that I've created. So I'm gonna go up to snap and say, save snaps. So I'm gonna click on that right there and I'm gonna name it ZZ and I'm gonna hit OK. And so I can get rid of it and I can make another one if I want, but I'm good. I can call that back at any time. So let me do this assignment with you now using the tools we've got and the that shape that I've created. So in my layers, my first layer I've made black, all right? All I did to do that was choose the black ink here and take the shape tool with the black color and just made a black square over the whole thing. There it is. Okay, so that's my background. I'm going to turn it off though by unclicking the little visibility icon there. Next thing I'm going to do is put my shapes on the screen. So I'm going to do a different layer for each one. I have a layer here and I'm going to make a bunch of layers. I'm going to go over to add layer. I'm going to make several. And on this very first one, I'm going to come over to my snap and click Curve ZZ. There it is, the one that I made. And voila, it appears on the screen. And I can move it around and I'm going to put it maybe over in this corner, kind of coming off there. Okay. And I am going to use the green to do the stroke on that. So I'm going to go to snap and say draw curve. Try that one more time. Snap, draw curve. All right. I'm not sure why it's not happy with that. Oh, because I don't have the brush tool selected. So you have to, if you're gonna, I thought I did, you definitely have to have the brush tool chosen because that is what you would use to trace it. All right, so you got the right tool, you got the right color, and got the right size. Okay, one more time. Snap, draw curve, there we go. Okay, and so that is on this layer. And I'm going to now go to my bucket and I'm going to fill it with a different color. So I'm going to fill that one with the pink here. So there it is. So now I have this outline or stroke as it's known of green and a fill of pink, and it's on this layer. And if I want, at any time, I can go over to the move tool and move that wherever I want. I could, yeah, I think I might just do that. Move it a little over here. That looks better. And I'm going to proceed to do this on the next few layers. I'm going to go to this layer here and choose a different color. Go to my snap and say curve ZZ. There it is. Voila. And this one time I'm going to make it even bigger. Quite large. And I'm going to rotate it a little bit. So this one is going to be like the biggest one on my page. It's going to be kind of obnoxious. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to say snap, draw curve. Oh, I keep forgetting. You got to get back into the brush tool. Okay, I'm in the brush tool. I've got my color selected. Snap, draw curve. There it is. And then I'm going to go over to my fill. And I'm going to choose the opposite color. I'm going to choose the green on this one and fill it with the green. There it is. Okay, so that is done. And I'm going to go to another layer here and do the same thing. Snap, curve ZZ, move that to another location, maybe rotate it, something like this. And like that. Okay, and get my brush tool, choose a color for the stroke, and then say snap, draw curve, and then go to my paint bucket, and with a different color, I will color that in. There we go. Okay, so I've got each one of these on its own layer. I'm going to turn the black on, and you can see how this is going. I could keep doing this, keep using the same shape, or make some new shapes. This is a piece of artwork that you are creating, and you can do whatever you want. But this is the basic idea that you have some vibrant colors, some vibrant shapes on a black background. That's really the only requirement. I strongly recommend that you take advantage of these layers. Again, because they're on separate layers, at any time I can click the move tool or transform tool and pick on the one layer, and I can be like, you know what, I really want this one over here, and that looks better. Or I can hit Control T and transform it and then make it bigger or stretch it even some like that, rotate it, move it. By being on its own layer, you just have so much more control over your drawing. It's really the only way to do these projects. Are there any questions?